indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes. It would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions. So tell me what's wrong with that argument. The argument is probably. I mean, but I just like, is there a flaw in that argument?
I mean, someone.
I'm not sure what the error.
No. The argument makes sense. So the assumption then is that somebody beat us to it, and this is a game.
No. There's a 1 in billions chance that this is base reality.
Oh.
Today, space is essential not only to our way of life, it's absolutely critical to the modern way of war. GPS, ATMs, cell phones, gas pumps, traffic lights, power grids, guided missiles, surveillance, RPAs, ground combat control. There's no such thing as a day without space operations. You just don't see them. Earth is only half the battle. Cyber attacks and jamming of our satellites. Microsatellites that can create a debris field. At 17,000 miles an hour, a piece of metal the size of a coin can be weaponized. Now is the time for a military branch with a clear and singular focus on space. A military branch that protects the hopes and dreams of America and our way of life as the space domain becomes more and more contested. It's time for another giant leap. The United States Space Force is being built from the brightest minds across the space operations of the Air Force, our joint services, and the private sector. We aren't just getting ready for the near future, we're getting ready for the 22nd century. When our enemies ask, what if? We will have an answer. When foreign powers can build bases on the dark side of the moon, when private companies are inventing a new economy beyond our planet, we need to stay one step ahead of the future. The future is where we'll make history. We will fight in an environment with no up or down, no left or right, where there are no borders and nowhere to hide. Our Space Force is defending our country, here on Earth and wherever our mission takes us. As commerce and exploration expand, we will imagine the unimaginable, anticipate the inconceivable, and prepare for the impossible. We won't just think outside the box. We'll think outside the atmosphere, in one of the most challenging environments ever known.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the CG Patriot podcast, Awake with Reason. It is March 15th, 2021, and another fun Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. If you haven't, subscribe below. You can check out some of the videos I posted over the weekend. And we can also go through some of those later this week in more detail. I discussed Nasera Jacera. I discuss some of the coincidences with the Vatican and the gold and silver shipments that have been made to the U.S. and they're interesting videos, so you should check them out if you have a chance. What I wanted to talk about today, it's one of those days. It's interesting. You wake up and you have kind of a idea of what you're going to be talking about, or you run into, say, you're on social media and something strikes your interest. But today was one of those days where there's a weird vibe going on. So I decided to stay off Twitter for a little bit and just dive into some of the videos that I look forward to watching every day. So I did. And the interesting part was I had watched X22 Report last night. And there's a part in this video from X22 that connected to another video that I watched today, which connected to another video. And that's why you saw the beginning intro has Elon Musk and Space Force and base reality and Matrix stuff going on here. This will all tie together once we get through this. So let's get started.
But there's also another tweet from the 45th Space Wing, and they tweeted this out. Congratulations to the airmen and guardians of the 45th Space Wing and our teammates at SpaceX on the successful launch of the latest Falcon 9 Starlink mission. This is the 21st batch of satellites we have assisted in launching to the Starlink broadband network. Great job, team. And then the United States Space Force, they retweeted this. Now, they retweeted this at 5:57. And if you go back to 5:57, and this is post 5:57, this is January 19, 2018, it says, the floor is yours. Now remember, the Space Force, that was created by Trump, put into place, and they monitor cyber traffic around the world. They just launched their satellites into position. They already had satellites into position. And now the floor is theirs. Are they getting prepared and ready to show the American people something? Or is something about to happen? It's starting to seem that way. Why? Because then we have Dan Scavino. He retweeted this picture of Trump sitting in a chair. He's painting. He has a painter's palette. And he's pulling back the curtain to the painting, revealing something behind the painting. Now, Dan Scavino retweeted this at 7:49. And when we go back to post 7:49, it says, and this is an anon on the board saying, controlling the crops controls the people, sheep. Might be reaching, but throwing it out there. Well, Q responded and said, coincidence, the Matrix movie grew people as crop, used for energy and controlled their mind. Sound familiar? Wonder where they derived that idea from. Now comes the conspiracy label. Deeper we go, the more unrealistic it all becomes. Now, this is the important part, I do believe. The end won't be for everyone. The choice to know will be yours. Is Dan Scavino...
So, I'm going to hesitate here for a second to talk about this because it's just been a crazy couple of days with the numbers that numerology has been lining up. And then this morning, this was yesterday's X22 report. In that particular part of that video, when I watched it last night, actually stuck out to me. And it might have seeded my brain unconsciously for exploring some of the videos that I kind of ran into, but I mean, literally the first two videos I pulled up, maybe the first two out of three, were in direct relationship to what this is talking about. And the significant part about this, and he mentions that, is that the end won't be for everyone. And where he's talking about the Matrix, and he's talking about, harvesting energy, and yeah, so it's definitely interesting. So what I want to do is I want to connect you to the next video I watched, and this one is a little bit more out there, but I do want to show you kind of the journey I have gone on today through the rabbit hole. All right, take a listen.
Have this AI and the artificial dimensions and the avatars, and we all have bodies and all of that. God is very clear. The Bible told us long before science caught up with the Bible. The Bible told us this is not our home. It says, don't fear those who can kill the body but can't kill your soul. The Bible told us about this. This place where we are, this world, if you will, that is composed of a subset of dimensions, this is not base reality. It is not. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 14. For this world is not our home. We are looking forward to our everlasting home in heaven.
So this video was just released today. on Extreme Reality Check. And I will put the link to this video and the others in the description below. But that's where I started to trip out. Because I had studied, or not studied, but I had gone down the rabbit hole of, in the podcast I had with, the interview I had with John Wick, which you can see in the description below. I talk about, and I got the information from Extreme Reality Check. And she talks about how the Matrix is an organic matrix. And then the evil forces create the AI, which is not organic, right? It is a artificial matrix. So that was about 2 weeks ago. I listened to that, and that kind of bent my mind a little bit, but I could digest it. I could get into that. However, when I heard X-22 last night and then saw this, I started to trip out. And then I saw a third video, which I'm going to show you. I want to hit the play button on this again real quick just to give you a little bit more insight on this video. But then I'm going to show you a third video.
So the Bible says heaven is the source. God is source. Heaven is the reality. It's the original. It's a higher dimension, heaven. There are many artificial dimensions, continually self-replicating AI artificial dimensions. People who have done DMT and LSD have seen a lot of that machine art and machine elves and them creating these, different universes and all of that type of thing. But aside from all of the artificial dimensions, this matrix that we are in, there is an original God in heaven. That's the base reality. He says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning. He's the beginning and the end. That's base reality, not this. Just like they represented in the Avatar movie, that this world is not our home. Once we come out of these bodies, like he comes out of the Avatar, the real world on the outside, this isn't heaven, this is military. Our home, our base reality with God in heaven is quite a bit more grandiose.
So, as she explains, her theory is that base reality is heaven, and that our reality is currently a hybrid of organic and AI matrix combined, right? And that we might be going back to the beginning of this video, or the intro with Elon Musk, 1 in a billion chance that we're not in base reality. That we are in base reality. 1 in a billion chance that we are in base reality. And I don't take Elon Musk's word on a lot of things anymore. I don't know why. I just got a weird feeling on Elon Musk. However, we all know how media portrays the truth, and they do it in such a way where it feels like a joke, right? And you'll notice in that video with Elon Musk, and I'll put the description below, I'm sure you've seen it before, that some of the folks in the audience are laughing, right? So we could possibly, basically the idea is that we could possibly be iterations down on a simulation of a simulation of a simulation. And this connects to the idea that we're stuck in this matrix. Our souls are stuck in this matrix, and they're going through this reincarnated cycle. And again, just a theory, going through this reincarnated cycle. And what we're striving to do is get back to base reality, heaven. Okay? So, again, this doesn't remove any of the faith that I have. It just starts to confirm possibly some of the small things that I've noticed, and the glitches, and you've seen the idea behind the Mandela effect, right? And you've seen those videos with the glitches in the eyes of certain news like media. And so anyways, I want to show you the third video. The third video is actually not from a source like the one I just showed you. The third video is actually Jaco, and this was also launched. This was streamed live 2 days ago, but I wanted to give you a kind of insight into. This was the third video I watched after the X-22 last night, the Extreme Reality Check, and then this video. Take a look.
Like the one you showed us for the Space Force.
Yes.
Which is so interesting because that's a similar one to the one that they used in Star Trek. And so
Right.
has it been going on for that long? I mean, do you think Star Trek was under some general at that point in time?
Yeah, I mean, some of those movie releases, even Indiana Jones, shows like the Stargates in the fourth one. I think it's in the third one where they, show like kind of like a table, like a King Arthur table that's round with weird symbols. So all of these things, they've been putting out in movies for years, at least from the 1940s. I would say the late 1940s on. And when we think about time frame, that's when near, Area 51, they had, Parsons was opened up a spiritual gate. So kind of since that time, you've seen, that we had several things happen. We've had the Nazis, that scientists who came in through Project Paperclip. Those individuals, were part of very satanic communities and things in the UK, in Germany, and they basically brought the programs over here.
Right.
And so, we've kind of seen that as they brought that program, they were releasing information through Hollywood, different media sites, and doing their low-key reveal. It's like, we're here, this is what we're doing, but you're going to think it's a fantasy and not real. You're not going to engage in the spiritual realm because now we've made it a movie or a story, so it's not real. And that's what they want people to feel and think, is that none of this engagement in the spiritual world is real.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff that you were saying is the logos and stuff like that.
So, as you know, she touched on how the media wants us to believe. They show us this stuff, so we don't believe it could be real, right? So I want to go through a separate section here. They go through the logo. Check this out. So this is the part of the video where she dissects the logo, the Space Force logo, and goes into some of the details about her theory behind the markers and the symbology on this logo itself. Just like the CV-19 logo for Operation Warp Speed that I go over with John Wick in the interview a few days ago, there is symbolism to everything on both sides, all right, white and black hat.
The quadrant of Gabriel, and over
Yep.
here, quadrant of Archangel Michael. So, yeah, I paid attention. But it's pretty cool if you maybe could break that down, simply for everybody so they could see that this is not such a positive thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so kind of what we have in the middle with that arrow in the decipher that I gave, you would just continue that arrow and it becomes a diamond. And so there's points in that diamond, 9 of them, that represent the 9 demonic generals. So if I was reading this, it's pointing up at the very top gate. So that's going to be the dominion of Abaddon. And he also goes by Apollo or Apollon. And, if people go back and look, 20, 40 years, we have the testimonies of Fiona Barnett, Kathy O'Brien. There's a ton of other survivor testimonies who, those individuals claim that they were part of these government experiments. and that the main entity or demonic spirit who was running those projects, they call him Apollon, which that's exactly what this principality's name is. So it kind of confirms some of those connections. And then if you look down at the bottom of that arrow, you know, those would be the principalities as Azael and Toth. You know, so they're going to have kind of a lesser dominion than Avedon over that, but the three of them are kind of working in conjunction. And then it is important, you know, the ring of Saturn, that means that this is a special thing that, you know, Satan himself is involved in the heavenly councils with the major decisions that go on with this organization or department in the government. The main angelic being then, who's going to be, you know, as Satan comes forward to God and says, okay, you know, I want my permission this week to do this and this and this and this, you know, Gabriel's going to be the one who's fighting and saying, you know, kind of countering those petitions. So that's how that kind of works. And then the little star clusters, like we kind of read it like 3 clocks. So you've got at the very center where that arrow is, that's the first clock. That's gonna, you know, it has 9 numbers on it. And that will tell you who the demonic generals are over that that area. Then you've got the middle area where we see Gabriel and the star clusters. And so again, you know, the numbers are important. So when we see those star clusters in there, if we're reading it like a clock, it's numbers 4 and 10. And, you know, I don't usually encourage people to read the Keys of Solomon, but you can go to Wikipedia. You can see the list of the numbers that
So I'll stop it there. I don't want to show Jocko's whole video. I'll put the description in the link below. So how does this relate to everything we just discussed in Matrix and everything else? So one of the theories is that the Space Force, and they talk about the gateway and the arrow pointing up, right? So the theories is that the heavenly realms, not the base reality we just talked about, which would be heaven in this theory, is that the realms are actually different dimensions, and those dimensions could be possibly these matrices, right? So the idea is that the Space Force, and this is kind of what I brought up with John Wick, is the Space Force, or I brought it up on Twitter, I think. The Space Force might not be what we believe it to be, meaning outer space. Space has a synonym, which is dimension. Okay? So she's talking about dimensions. She's really dissecting this logo. And we just saw a couple videos that we're talking about, revealing something that is not going to be for everybody, okay, with the X-22 report, which we just saw. And we saw those connections back to Space Force in X-22 with the post from Dan Scavino. And then we go on to the idea that, you know, the dimensions inside this logo might represent those dimensions of space. Okay. So, just food for thought. I figured I didn't really have a plan for content today. I usually let the day bring the content to me. But this struck me like first thing in the morning. And I wanted to bring this to you as soon as I could. I am going to do a lot more digging on this. I am the front end of this, so this is not necessarily my last video on this. I want to just to say this is an introduction video on this particular topic. I just wanted to get this information to you guys and get your feedback actually because this was tripping me out today. So let me know what you think. It's interesting how all these things are connected together. You know, the numerology is just going nuts. You know, last night I was talking to folks on Twitter, and I was just kept seeing 17117 everywhere, and it was just insane. And it's been progressively getting more prominent by the day, and all the folks that I interact with on Twitter, they're experiencing the same thing, right? So there feels like there's weird energy today, not bad energy, weird energy today. Might be because it's not nice outside and here in San Diego, and we're so used to 72 and sunny. So, but it was just a weird vibe today, not a bad one. So I just wanted to get this out to you guys. I might be able to create another video later today. Most likely it's going to be tomorrow. So if you haven't checked out the other videos, go in the description below and check those out. I'm looking to have an interview set up sometime maybe this weekend or later this week or next week. I'm looking to get interviews set up so we can go over some information with other folks that are part of this movement. So stay tuned for that. And I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate all the support. So you guys have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you soon. Stay frosty.